Welcome to another day in the Matrix. This is Red Pill Podcast 221, and what a way to finish off this 25th week of the year. A week that I actually brought up at the very beginning of this year when I released my Year of the Snake Decoded, since our key number for this year of 2025 was the number 25. And now we can see what Donald Trump and the US military just did in response to this Israel and Iran conflict escalating during this 25th week of 2025. And if you remember, during this Year of the Snake Decoded, around the 1 hour and 3 minute mark or so, I actually started reviewing every year of the snake for the S&P 500 for the traditional markets, starting with the year of 2013, which was the last one we had, and then I went all the way back until 1929, reviewing almost a century of data. And in 2013, you can see that we actually had a correction into June 24th. If it's a little bit hard to see, don't worry. You could just go watch the original over here. Since you're a Patreon supporter, you have access to this entire decode. So definitely check it out if you haven't already. But here around the 1 hour mark, you'll see that I start going into each iteration for every snake year. We get this correction you could see into late June. Then in 1977, you can see right over here, we also have a key marker for this month of June. And then we have 1953. You can see right over here a correction into June 14th. And then we have 1965, which is the year that I've put most emphasis on, since it's the year of the wood snake specifically, which is the year we're in now here in 2025. And I could show you that really quickly. We have over here 1965 wood snake, and then we have over here for 2025 year of the wood snake. And you can see that we had a correction actually perfectly into late June. And don't worry, I'll be talking about this more in depth later, of course, since this is something we actually discussed in last week's Red Pill in depth, but we could very well be seeing this turn out this exact way in the week ahead. Then lastly, we have two final examples of 1929, which was a very historic snake year. It's the start of the Great Depression. And then we have 1941, which is very important because 1941 was literally during World War II. And you can see the correction and this pivot higher starting off of this June move. Clearly, the month of June has a tendency to reset the energy of markets. And here we are specifically for crypto investors. And we've just had probably one of the most extreme years in all of crypto's history with the way things kicked off with Trump's inauguration. Everything was in extreme greed leading into the start of this year, right around Chinese New Year, by the way. And then we had everything pretty much plummet into extreme fear throughout the month of March and sinking even lower into the exact week of Trump's Liberation Day, another event tied directly to him. And then just a month later, we have everything right back into greed. The narrative was there's a pause on these tariffs and kind of all the scare went away. And then we're back in fear again, pretty much like a yo-yo. And all of this market movement has been exoterically tied to Donald Trump. And last night's event is a prime example. So now that we've set the tone for today, this is a very important Red Pill podcast, and we have a lot to cover. We need to get straight into this one, but very quickly, before we get started, as always, make sure to get relaxed, get comfortable. I know there's a lot of tension in these markets right now. Get relaxed. Deep breaths. Grab yourself a cup of coffee or tea if it's a little earlier in the day, or a glass of wine or beer if it's getting a little later in the day, but don't abuse it. Just a glass of wine. It's getting a little later out there in the Matrix. And also make sure to comment below this post here on Patreon to vote on the altcoins you'd like me to cover in next week's Red Pill podcast. But before you leave a comment, please just make sure to use the search function here on Patreon to check that I have not covered the project in at least 3 months. So if it's been over 3 months since I've reviewed that altcoin, or if I've never covered that altcoin before, as long as it has at least 1 year of chart history over here on TradingView, you can go ahead and comment below with the name of the altcoin, and please include the ticker symbol next to it as well. And whatever submissions get the most likes from our community here, those top 4 projects will be selected in next week's Red Pill. Now, as you're all likely aware, the US bombed several Iran nuclear bases yesterday night, June 21st, on the solstice. What a ritual. And of course, this happened on a Saturday. So we're going to get into this quick decode for you guys because I think it's important to break this all down. It's revealing code that we could actually utilize for the week ahead. So we have Saturday, a Saturn's day, tied to Saturn. We have the 21st day, and we have Saturn giving you 21 in multiple ciphers. And if you actually take from June 21st and you measure it over to the first day of Rosh Hashanah, the Hebrew New Year, you're going to have 93 days. And that's important because Saturn in English ordinal, the basic gematria cipher, equals 93. And Rosh Hashanah is tied to Saturn. This is a holiday for Saturn, essentially. What's also important to point out about this is that if we were to connect this date of June 21st over to Chinese New Year, which we were just talking about a bit ago, tied to the year of the snake, we have these two dates being 144 days apart, which is 12 squared. So 12 12s is 144, being a so-called spiritual number. But what I actually want to focus on is the fact that 144 days is actually 4 months and 24 days. That's the 424 code, or the palindrome of the number 42. So 42 forwards and backwards, which is the war code, 42 in gematria. We also have Iran giving you 42 and the mirror number 24, which is equally as important for today's decode. So please keep that in mind. And then you also have Zionism giving you 42. We've been exposing this here since day one on this channel. This is really what the quote unquote problem is in our world. But anyways, getting back to that, speaking of war and this 42 code, this is why we need to be prepared for this upcoming Tuesday, the 24th. Let me just quickly check, make sure I am good on the mic. Great. So we have the 24 code. We were just talking about that. Now, why Tuesday? Well, because Tuesday is symbolic of Mars, the day of Mars, the god of war, whilst Wednesday, the following day, is associated with Mercury, tied to fiat money. I call it fiat money because that's the way Alan Greenspan would pronounce it. Fiat, like to fight. So it's all part of the war machine. You get it. And of course, Wednesday will also be the upcoming new moon. And that's also very important. The new moon is in Cancer. It's like shifting out of Gemini into Cancer. And this is the sign that is ruled by the moon. So we need to consider that as well. But let's stay focused on the specific new moon in the month of June. And if you remember what I showed you in last week's Red Pill podcast when I was reviewing the year of 1965, let me go over to right here, just talking about it a moment ago as well, we got a correction perfectly into the June new moon, which also happened to be the lowest that we went, as you can see over here, for the rest of the cycle, which ended at the start of the following year, in 1966. I believe it was right before the start of the year of the horse. So that would align this cycle with 2026 January, for example. And I'm not saying that's how long this cycle is going to extend to, even though I kind of hinted in my last Red Pill that I would love for it to. Because the more we coil up, the more explosive everything gets. And anyways, we'll talk about that more later. But staying on track here, keeping up with this war theme and the number 42 and the number 24, I want you to keep in mind that mirror number 24, equally as significant for today's decode as I just mentioned. Well, this upcoming Tuesday, day of Mars, 24th day of the month, it will also be tied to Trump's Liberation Day. Remember, 4-2. This is very important. Internationally, it would be written 2-4. Again, coming back to that code. This is significant because we're going to have multiple connections to this. We'll get to them. One thing to mention, though, because we were just talking about war and this Liberation Day thing, it's effectively a declaration of war. You should all know this. Even Warren Buffett, before he announced his retirement, was asked about Trump's tariff policy before Liberation Day, and he said that it's effectively an act of war. Remember in this Decode Year of the Snake, I was going over the part where Elon says voting for Trump is voting for Mars 15? Mars 15? Well, April 2nd is a 15 standard date numerology. This is all coming back to the god of war. All right. This is very symbolic. So you have the 2-4 or the 4-2, you have the 2-4. Also, June would technically be the fourth month in the system. I know this is a little complicated for some people, but remember September is 7. You go to the October, that is octagon, that is 8, November, 9, etc. Your months are all out of order. So March would be the true first month, and then you have April 2nd, May 3rd, June is your fourth month. Remember I was telling you about the palindrome of 424 or 242? Well, there you go. 424. Guys, pay attention to what I'm teaching you here. This is very powerful stuff. So one thing to mention, not including the end date, and I'm going to show you how this all comes full circle, 83 days apart, 8 3 times is 24. Now, back to the connection with April 2nd, tied to war. If you include the end date, and this is a little strange, but bear with me, but if you include the end date, you're going to get 12 weeks. And this could be perceived esoterically as 11 weeks plus 7 days, which I'm only bringing up because it has a hidden code in it. And I want to get to that because I feel like it's important for this upcoming September, which was a big theme in this year of the Snake Decoded. Perhaps you remember during this Leave the World Behind section, which had all these 76s. I'm noticing that there's so many 76. I don't want to derail this, but if we go from April 7th over to, oh man, let me show you really quickly because it's fascinating. You're going to see from the election date, and I'm sorry to do this, but I feel like it's like this is the way my mind works, and I know you guys appreciate this kind of stuff, especially the decoders in our community. But if you take from November 5th, the day Trump won the election, 76 days into the future is his inauguration. Again, we're talking about all these 76 connections in the movie Leave the World Behind. And then when you take from the 20th over to this date right here, which is the day before we had the market bottom, or if you were to take it from the first day of Trump being a president, over 76 days gets you to the market crash lows. And you could do the same thing with what we're going through right now. If you go over to today from April 7th, it's 76 days. And we're getting a market crash pretty much in crypto. A lot of altcoins are going very low right now. We're going to get to that, guys, but you need to know the reason why it is happening. Because then you could take this information, you could apply it to your charts on your own, and then you won't need to rely on my truth. The whole point of Waters Above is for you to unlock your own truth from within you. I'm just the cup of coffee in the morning. That's all. You're the superstar. So getting back to this, there's so much to say here, but in this decode, I put a lot of emphasis on September, and I put a lot of emphasis on just talking about the September lunar eclipse, and it is around the day of 9/11. So before, you're probably like, what is he on about, talking about this 11/7 code? Well, 11/7 or 7/11 is actually the code behind the 9/11 ritual that happened in New York City in 2001. Remember, the word September starts with the prefix septem, which in Latin is the number 7. Just went over this. So September is the true 7th month in the system. That would make the date of 9/11 actually 7/11. Let me bring this up. So we have our 7/11 11/7 code, and this happened in New York City, which, by the way, speaking of this 42 and 24 code, September 11th this year will be the 24th anniversary of this event, making this 24 and 42 connection in today's decode even more powerful. If you didn't think this was already powerful, that is madness. And don't forget the year this happened, 2001, was also the year of the snake. Just like we're in now in 2025. It was a big theme in my year of the snake decoded. So just to quickly look at the date numerology for September 11th of 2001, we have a 14 standard date numerology, just like snake equals 14. And we have 111 days left in the year is when the event happened, just like New York, where it happened, gives you 111. And what's so crazy about this is obviously Donald Trump is heavily tied to where? To New York City. And if you take from his birthday of 6/14 over to 9/11 this year, the 24th anniversary, you have 89 days, which is the 24th prime number. Again, another 24 connection to Donald Trump. Most powerful cipher. And I'll be honest, what actually worries me a little bit about this decode is the fact that Trump just turned 79 years old. And if you take from this upcoming Tuesday, which is the date that we're decoding today, the 24th, and oh, damn, I didn't even... So there you go. You have 79 days until 9/11, the 24th anniversary, and Trump just turned 79. I mean, one of many 79 connections I'm actually about to show you, but this is a great place to start. And all of this is pointing towards New York, but that's not me predicting a New York ritual necessarily, and just because that would be too obvious, I'd actually consider, and this may be weird to some of you, but I'd be considering maybe the Carolinas in regards to the USA, since there's that link to the Gadsden flag. Apologies if I didn't pronounce that correctly, and I do think I brought this up in the decode. Let me just quickly scroll through this. Boom, right there. I brought it up. Let me see if I brought it up again. I probably decoded it even more, actually. Apologies, but this, yep, there it is. So I would say Philadelphia or the Carolinas would be personally what I'm anticipating if there were to be like a false flag sort of event. So we have the snake symbolism tied to the Carolinas. I believe it's the South Carolina flag, but they were all one at one point, so don't worry about the North and South thing. This is something I mentioned in my Year of the Snake Decoded video here on Patreon, as you can see, so definitely check that out if you haven't already, because I'm sure I'm really like juicing this one up today. Like there's so many amazing connections here. But now let's bring in the layer of the recent tariff crash that bottomed on April 7th. And I type that in real quick. And if we were to connect that to this upcoming Tuesday, including the end date, you're going to see clearly that it is the 24th, 79 days apart in both directions. And then we have the following day, not including the end date, which is the 79 connection, also your 76 connection, which I showed you a bit ago with the code. And then even more important is the fact that this is the new moon. This is massive. And another thing about the number 79 is it's the 22nd prime number, and that is a 22 date numerology on this exact date that we're decoding. So you're seeing how this is all coming together. And this week is essentially equidistant from the week we bottomed. I'm showing you right here on April 7th, tied to Trump's Liberation Day, which was started on the April 2nd date, the 2442 date, and the upcoming 24th anniversary of 9/11 would be 11 weeks in either direction. So to simplify this, 11 weeks prior to this upcoming new moon was the market crash lows during the week of April 7th. And then 11 weeks from this new moon into the future, we have the week of 9/11. And 11 plus 11 is 22, tied back to the number 79. The 22nd prime. Trump is 79, and every single thing has been tied to this one person. He's what allegedly caused Liberation Day. We brought in his birthday a moment ago. I mean, everything has been tied to him. The market lifted off after he won the election and then topped on his inauguration. You literally can't make this up. So he's the only person I'm paying attention to in this whole thing. Not Elon, not BlackRock, nothing, because the code is just living through him on the entire world stage. And I think that it actually simplifies everything for us, because we already talked about the fact that he's the 47th president. 478 was the market crash lows. I'll bring that up again in a moment, but I just showed you how the day of the new moon has this 22 date numerology. By the way, that's the master builder, master destroyer number. So that is a master number. It would not get reduced. So very powerful. And this new moon is tied in both directions to not only 9/11, but also the day of the local crash that we just had, tied to this tariff scare. Also, we have 79 is the mirror of the number 97. The date tied to April 7th, 97th day of the year. And I covered this in recent podcasts as it's very significant since we're in the year of the snake, and the snake is the serpent giving you 97 by the code. Mamma mia, this is wild. And also, this is all just tied to the upcoming new moon. And something that is absolutely mind-blowing is that if you take from the US election day, which was November 5th of 2024, over to this upcoming Tuesday, which is the 24th of June, this is something I forgot to mention last week. It is literally 33 weeks apart on the nose. That's a crazy connection, as 33 is the master number of transmutation. So this is clearly a turning point week ahead of us. This is the turning point, guys. We are living in the final moments of it. I'm not trying to just be dramatic here. You should know me by now. This code is unbelievable. So we have all of those 22 connections that I showed you earlier, and this upcoming Wednesday is going to be the 22nd, 22 date numerology, and this Wednesday also a new moon. We had all those 79 connections. 79 is the 22nd prime. It's 22 minutes into the video right now. Well, if you connect June 25th to Trump's inauguration day, they are 22 weeks and 2 days apart. That's your 222 code, another number that's associated with alchemy, transmutation, etc. As the number 22 is the master builder, master destroyer number, the 222 is emphasizing this essence even more. So imagine that. So this week should be on par with the type of energy that we got around Trump's election and also around his inauguration, which in some ways, at least when it comes to the results, they were opposite each other, as we can see now that everything has kind of rallied from his election victory and then topped out on his inauguration. And both events, of course, had an overwhelmingly bullish sentiment when we were present in the now moment. But now we can look back and see how it all turned out, of course, where the exoteric event of his inauguration marked the initial top. And what I'm considering is if you take from the day before Trump's victory on the 4th of November, and when you actually take it to the day of his election, I have a couple connections here. We know that the start of the rally was on his election win. And this would be Trump's first full day as a president, again, for a second term. And you can see how there's 79 days apart. So we're taking from the day before a significant event tied to him and the day after a significant event tied to him, left and right? Like a ripple effect. We have that 79, which again is the 22nd prime number. Then let's take from the day before his inauguration on the 19th to the day the market actually bottomed after Liberation Day, which was the 7th of April. You have 79 again. You're seeing how this is working. This was the major pivot low This was the pivot high, right? These two dates are 79 days apart. And then when we take from this April crash over to 79 days, you're going to have June 24th, giving you this upcoming Tuesday. But what we were doing before is we were taking the day before the event or after. So that could actually mean that we're pivoting either Monday through Wednesday, if we wanted to be fair with this concept. All right. Let's just say the first 3 days of this week would make the most sense for the market to pivot across the board. And if anything, what I'm assuming from the exoteric perspective is similar to Trump's Liberation Day, where we knew it would happen, but then the market took a couple days to actually like solidify what it was going to do. Then we just went the absolute opposite direction. It's similar to when Trump won the election, and then once we had the result, the market just went up in a straight line. Then he steps into office, he's there, he's officially in, then the market completely goes the opposite direction. Does the tariff thing, market goes in the opposite direction. Then he's now enacted war. The market now knows what's up. So it doesn't matter if the war escalates more with US's involvement, in my opinion, because the market knows now. There's none of this 2-week waiting game shit that was going on before. Now, of course, we do have these tariff pauses and all that other stuff, and there's plenty of little like smaller black swans that could occur between now and, entirety of next week. But I hope you can understand what I'm trying to tell you right now. The world was waiting for Trump to get involved, and now he has. So the market knows. And when the market has information and knows, that like weirdness, that vibe in the air dissipates. Now, of course, that's not to say Monday when the market's open, we could go lower for sure. There's some technical targets for us to hit. Absolutely, there's definitely a lot of room for us to pull back, and I'll get to that in the charts, but just don't be surprised if it ends up being like an April 7th or April 7th through 9th situation. Okay? Don't be surprised. Remember, leading into Trump's election, we had this pretty decent slide for a week. Then we get the results and it just skyrockets. I think that's what's up right now. I think the world was waiting for the US to get involved in war. Remember when I made this? So many people thought I was going to be wrong about the US entering the war. And here we are, man. Some of you might have expected me to start today's decode like praising myself with this, but I wasn't gonna, because to me it's sickening. I don't want war, but here we are. It's undeniable now. So I think this is all very important to consider, and I hope it gives you all rhyme and reason for why we're dealing with this energy, and proving to you without a shadow of a doubt that there's significance here in this code. It blows my mind still to this day. So we have Monday through Wednesday likely to be the pivot. The traditional markets will be open, so the crypto market will have clarity from the traditional markets. We have a major upside gap on the CME chart for Bitcoin, Ethereum, etc. This is going to be a wacky weekly open ahead. But as you can see in 1965, which we're going to review in a moment, well, that's kind of exactly what we did around the same time, around that new moon. Let me just quickly finish this up. So we already went over this. I was telling you about the number 79 tied to Trump, but it's also tied to gold. All right. It's the 79th element on the periodic table, and the element, that's the 22nd element, because we were talking about 79 is the 22nd prime number. The 22nd element is titanium. And funny enough, titanium has an atomic mass of 47. Let me pull this up. You can see right here, titanium, atomic mass of 47. And the reason this is important is because Donald Trump is the 47th president, and we just had a market crash into April 7th, the 4/7 date. And this date that we're moving into, this upcoming Tuesday, is perfectly tied into that by the code to Trump, who just turned 79 years old. So with all these connections to the upcoming new moon this week ahead, and it tied to a market pivot, now is the perfect time to quickly recap last week's analysis on the 1965 S&P 500 chart, since that could very well be how this plays out in the week ahead. And I'm hopeful that this is how it plays out because crypto's corrected quite a bit over this weekend. And whenever we get these weekend moves, they're not to be trusted. You're all probably kind of used to this by now if you started investing last year for sure. It's just been very awkward lately on weekends. But let's keep it neutral. No emotions here. We have Bitcoin dominance breaking out. This is something you all wanted. We have a correction now in the altcoins. Remember back in May, everyone wanted a correction. Now it's here. Now everyone's scared again. Isn't that interesting? I've been buying the dip. I haven't bought today just because I want to see how Monday opens, and that will probably be my final accumulations. And if I'm wrong and we go deeper into the beginning of June or July and we go even deeper after that, then I'm wrong. And I will come out here and admit it. But so far, what we just did in Bitcoin is something we actually talked about, a correction into 98 to 97K. You can go through all of the updates that we've had over the past month, and you will see that's what we've been anticipating. So now we got it. Now let's focus on this chart because we're talking about this pullback right here. Gonna hide this. I believe Bitcoin hasn't fully hit 97K yet, but we did hit 98.8. That's pretty good. It's close. It's close. Actually, while it's on my mind, did we hit where are we at with the weekly EMAs? Oh, yikes. I don't want to look at this mess. All right. 21 is at 96. It's a very typical level. That's what we did in 2017 quite a bit. We'll touch on that later. Anyways, we have the moon phase indicator on now. You can see this blue dot here. Very rare for it to be during a crashing phase, but that's what we got in 1965, pivoting and bottoming perfectly on the June new moon. All right. And then what's fascinating about this is that was what marked the lows. We did come up into the middle of July. We had a little bit of a correction into late July, but then we kept it moving. And we were actually pushing into price discovery by September, October. Technically topping out by November before another pretty decent pullback, and then one more time up into January 18th, 1966. I wonder if that was, wow, like right on New Year's, right on Chinese New Year. How crazy is that? We topped the day before Chinese New Year. Imagine we went up until February 16th, 2026. That would be insane. And I know some people are like, their stomach hurts hearing this. They're like, Waters, I want to get rich today. And I'm like, well, this year of the snake, I'll just say it, this Chinese zodiac decoding system that I've been putting out once a year is pretty phenomenal, man. Like, it's starting to blow my mind too, because all of the important pivots have come to fruition. We had Bitcoin top hit 100K before the year of the snake. That was huge. Then we had a big correction into March, April. That was what we anticipated. Then we also had Bitcoin hit a new all-time high after the March, April correction and before the September lunar eclipse. I mean, that is insane. I know it wasn't a much higher all-time high, but we're just getting started and we still have a lot of time between now and September. And I've shown you many examples of corrections into late June and even July still have pushed us higher for crypto, for Bitcoin into August. Late July could even kick in, but I don't want to waste our time on the theoretical stuff. Let's just review how this all went down. And it's pretty clear that this was a much more significant correction that we got into June. But remember, it had to do with the eclipses. Our eclipse season started earlier this year. It started in March, not in here in this example, it started in June. So this was our local top. This was our April 7th correction. I actually went over this last week, so I'm not going to waste your time. But when we were measuring the days, even when we got back to full recovery, it was the same. So just remember, It took 47 days. Remember, Trump is the 47th president. By the way, we're looking back in 1965, so this is insane. It took 47 days for us to bottom. We did the same thing this year. And then by the time we got to like the 70 to 80 day mark, we were mostly recovered. So now let's look at today's market. So we have top to bottom, 47 days on the nose. And then we have here, we're about almost 80 days and we are mostly recovered. We're doing the same thing. We're doing the same thing. So if we were to mimic this as a fractal, this actually shows us that we can see higher highs in August and we can also see even higher highs in October, maybe November. And it would be fascinating if we topped or like the energy fully gets severed by the month of November across the board, because that would align with the timing of the dates going back to 1965. And that would also be a 1 year since Trump won the election. So there could also be something with that too. It would be surprising if we go all the way up into January. But we'll see. I mean, for right now, I don't think I don't know if crypto can do that, but I am day by day, week by week, broadening my perception to allow for the October, November time frame for crypto, because that's what's happened for Bitcoin in every past cycle, you know? So again, for those of you that are new here, if I just pull up a weekly chart for Bitcoin and I turn off all the noise, I can quickly show you what I'm on about. And you'll see if I turn off the moon phases, we have the last cycle top was in November. Then we have over here, this cycle top was in very early December. Over here, we had the cycle top was in late November into very early December. This was pretty much the start of Bitcoin, but our true cycle started over here with 2013 into 2014. 2013, by the way, was the year of the snake. So we also corrected into the beginning of July in 2013. Let me go back there real quick since I'm bringing this up and you guys are probably like, whoa, tell me more. Because fuck, that would be crazy if we're reliving that. Then we have two powerful pieces of data to consider. The fact that we had this moment over here. The reason why I don't allow this into my like mind is because we were super high in April. That wasn't the case for us. This time around, we were crashing into the same time in April. Same thing here. Like, there's really, like, okay, maybe I could entertain that. We had the May highs, but let's look at the moon cycles. This is super, like, theoretical stuff, but we're having fun. Oh, shit. Okay, so the July new moon. July new moon. No. That'd be diabolical. That'd be It's been diabolical lately, but that'd be diabolical. Fuck. Okay, but it's offset, right? Like it would make sense if it's offset a little bit because naturally our eclipses were in a much different posture compared to here. So that would, yeah, again, we had an eclipse, I think a solar eclipse, like right on this date, while we entered a lunar cycle like the month prior here in 2025. So totally different vibe with the eclipses. But the new moon bottom is pretty wild. And really what we're seeing is it would happen on like 5th of July, and then we just went up and then topped in late November. So if this was offset by like 1 month forward, where like we're gonna bottom around this June new moon here at the end of June, it would only be like less than 2 weeks offset. So if that was the case here, it would be like ending around November 15th. Again, this is very theoretical, but you can see we topped on a new moon here, topped on a new moon here, topped on the new moon of December, topped on the new moon of November. This is just what Bitcoin does. It always hits its final all-time high peak in Q4 around a new moon. The reason I wasn't entertaining that this time around was because of the eclipses. But the one thing also to mention is that if you just zoom out, Bitcoin is technically always in a bull run. So it's always going to go higher and higher and higher. Like this correction right here in 2021, I believe we're doing this right now. Let me turn off the moon phases. We had this major rally up really fast, and now we're getting this exaggerated sell-off. I think that's what we're doing now. I mean, I hope it doesn't get as bloody as this, because that'd be real 25%, man. We've already only had 10. I don't think so. Maybe half that amount, which would be 12%, which we've already done. And the reason I say half that is because if you look at the total crash, it was 55% from these highs to that, from that high to that low. And from the recent all-time high down to the April crash was 31%. So around roughly, not necessarily half, but roughly. So half the move would already be accomplishing that sorta today. I mean, if we were to go to 97, it would be real perfect, in my opinion. But we'll have to wait and see. Where were we at technically then? Did we hit any key moving averages? It'd be cool to see if we hit like the weekly 55 maybe. Boom. Yeah, we did. Okay, so yeah, this is perfect, guys. Look, I'm going to turn off everything for you so you don't get lost. Not to say that all of you get lost, because I know some absolute wizards here in our community when it comes to TA. Some probably better than me, and I hope that's the case. I would love for people to be. Why did I do that? I'm not focusing right now. Apologies. I'm turning this off. No point of deactivating all of those. And you're going to see something here where we came down to the 55 simple, came down to the 55 simple, rallied pretty high. I think we're around here. And then we had this correction. We didn't quite get there, and I fucking hope we don't, because 89K Bitcoin is pretty low. Like filling the CME gap right now would be pretty diabolical for the altcoins unless we have Bitcoin dominance break down momentarily during the process, because I think that's what we did here. During this correction here, it was pretty messed up, but Bitcoin dominance just shattered right there. And Bitcoin went up, and also all the altcoins went up at the same time while Bitcoin dominance was breaking down. So that would be really cool. And you can see that we were held on by the 21 EMA. Over here, we pretty much barely closed below the 21 EMA, even though we did dip into the 34. So this gives us a target. Would be rough, but we're talking about filling the CME gap in that case, and then popping back up potentially to hit 96 on the same weekly close, and then this can continue just like it did over here. Again, really scary because a lot of altcoins are going to look like absolute shit, but this is the kind of market sentiment reset that you get before you have this, or over here where you had this, right over here, June into July of 2017. I'm going to show you guys something. Look at what Bitcoin did. So Bitcoin broke into price discovery here, May into June. Then it had a 30 or 40% pullback, 40% pullback, okay? Now look at what Ethereum did. So Ethereum, super high, had a 66% pullback and then continued up. But we had all this chop along the way. What did we do recently? Huh. Oh, would you look at that? An almost identical overall pullback. And let me turn off the noise. And you'll see, so we're talking about that could be this, and this sharp move up too soon. We already did it. And now this quick flush follows. We're in that flush phase right now. And then it gets bought back up. And if we were to, like, you can't perfectly analyze this with fibs because this is a totally different market compared to what we're working with today. But it shows you something, doesn't it? It shows you this structure is very elusive in the final moments when Bitcoin dominance really starts to just crater, which, by the way, it happened here and here during this initial melt up, but we needed to have some weird stuff occur on the way. We had the freaking C19 crash, a sharp, quick rebound, just like we recently had. Then we have a too quick, too soon move up, and then a flush out. I think we're here. It's the same, in my opinion. I think Bitcoin dominance agrees with what I'm saying too. Again, I'm willing to be corrected by any of you guys. I know you guys are also amazing at what you do. There's some members in this community that are amazing at TA. I could be wrong. I mean, I don't think I am. I don't think I am. I think we have an alt season ahead. I think ETH breaks into price discovery. I think XRP hits double digits. I think Bitcoin at least gets above 120. This is what I see happening. And I think this needed to happen because we went from, I'll show you something. I've never seen this before, guys. We just had one of the most overbought moments for Ethereum, and the speed of which RSI went from oversold to overbought to then back almost at oversold. I think today we'll bring it back below 30. I've never seen this before, ever. I've never seen that ever in my entire time reviewing Ethereum. This is a first for me. It's crazy. And I'm talking about the velocity, like the speed of which it occurred, going from oversold to overbought. Look, it was like 33 days or something. Yeah. 33 days. And then we're right back in it, like just as quick. That's not healthy. That's not normal. So this whole thing was, we call it manipulation, right? I'm not trying to throw out that word loosely. It's just, this is what it is, man. Because we call this the most volatile asset ever, yet we've never seen RSI do this ever in the history. I mean, the closest thing would be the C19 crash. And that was a lot different than a fucking tariff war. We had a 2-year lockdown, and what did it do after the C19 crash? We went into price discovery. So even during that, nobody was bullish, yet we got the most bullish outcome. So I think there's also some sentiment tied into this. Now we're going to go through Bitcoin pretty quickly because I think you all sort of get the gist here, but I have a couple more experimental charts that I want to review with you all. We have this. I think this support needs to hold because now that we finally concretely back tested this lower support 3 times, it's a confirmed macro trend line. Again, we're looking at the weekly chart, and this also aligns with Bitcoin dominance. Then we had a break above it, couldn't quite hold the top, but I noticed that now I could draw this upper rising sloping trend line because we were getting resistance on it all throughout here. And you're going to see that's not a short amount of time. That's 126 days, 18 weeks. And then when we broke above it, we came right back to it again, tapped on the bottom of the lower support, and then had a bunch of resistance until recently breaking above it. And now we're back at it. So this to me is very clean trend lines to consider. And then I'm assuming this will be your next high. Be crazy, 150K. I mean, let's not get ahead of ourselves, but it's possible. 140 is possible. Why not? It's not that crazy. It would take a lot of money to get it there, but that's not impossible. Now, 250 or 300,000 or 400,000, you never hear me talking about that unless I have some chart that shows you, kind of some past performance, but I wouldn't be putting my take profits there. You got to be realistic. So let's get back to like a traditional weekly analysis. I do think I might have a couple more. Okay, so this experimental chart was the Wyckoff chart. We're clearly playing out this LPS right here, in my opinion. It's a deeper LPS, and the way it's happening is kind of more like a bull flag style. So here's your flagpole, and here's the flag. You just wouldn't want it to break this support, which would then bring us potentially back to 89. And this is something that I was kind of saying before, that we've already completed our correction. I don't think people should be wanting us to go much lower than here. In my opinion, it's pretty rough correction to fill the CME gap and even go lower. It's a lot to have right now. What would that be? A 20% correct? Yeah, that'd be a lot. Because we went up too high too soon and even broke into price discovery. So it will start looking like a bear market, like the start of a very close to a bear market vibe. I mean, obviously you need to break trend completely, which at this time we've been holding higher lows and higher highs. But that would be nasty to go below 92 and start trading into the high 80s. That requires some serious event, like real serious. But so far, it's just a bull flag playing out right now. And this structure right here can still be on track with a breakout. into the second into third week of July. It's still very much in the cards. Let's look at the weekly. I think I, for a moment, brought up the 200 SMA. We're going to turn on the moving averages and turn off the drawings. Okay, so we are now breaking below the 8 simple moving average. That's the start of a corrective phase. And what we would like is holding support on the 21, which is sitting below us at around like 96. Let's say it rises to close to 97 on this weekly close. And we're still overall just retesting pretty much the prior resistance. I mean, we haven't broke below this 81K level yet. So again, I wouldn't get all worried right now, even if some of the things that I've said today sound a little worrisome. But yeah, this quick move was not cool. I did not like how we did that. I was warning about it the whole time. It was stinky. And here we are. We're getting a pretty massive correction now, and this May 8th candle is starting to get mostly filled for Bitcoin. I also brought this up, how this May 8th candle I didn't like. Most altcoins are now well below that, some of them testing near the C19, or sorry, the tariff crash lows. I mean, it's just been the Bitcoin show this whole time. And now that I bring that up, it's Bitcoin dominance time. We're almost at, did we hit 66? Whoo! We almost hit 60%. That's crazy. Okay, so what's going on here, guys? Turn off all the moving averages. We're just looking at this parallel channel right now. We have Bitcoin dominance holding this pattern, rising parallel channel, 820 days. And this is insane because we finally broke out of it into May. And I know we came back pretty low, but then when I zoom in, you see this? We held the outside and then pushed higher. That is breaking your pattern. So that's your confirmation, and it's rising. This is exactly how an alt season starts. We broke through a pattern that's been holding since 2023, going on 800 and something days. That excites me. So the push up to 67.5 is in the cards, and I also think that we could even have, and I'm saying 1 to 2 weeks in time, this could occur where we go from 67 to 69, maybe even 70% in just 2 to 3 weeks. And that could be in the month of July, for sure. It could be in the month of July into August. Yeah. So when we look across the screen at this line, you see how sharp this is? That was alt season. Over here, you see how sharp that is? That's alt season. And these are the type of levels that we kind of finish it off. We're there, guys. This is very close. Let's quickly look at Ethereum. Not a whole lot to say. I don't want to say bearish on Ethereum. I just didn't like how Ethereum broke out so violently and got rejected on this long-term resistance, or sorry, this long-term support for so long. Brought it up last week. We got rejected. And then finally now we're heading down towards what could very well be a stopping point. It would be great for it to come all the way down just to get out of the way, bounce off of this 0.5 fib. I do not want it going lower. Of course, the market doesn't do what I want, but I'm just saying, like, I do not want this lower. Lower, bad. Sorry, I think I tapped the mic. Make sure my mic is good. Yes. So I would like something like this. This would be very clean and kind of like this. So you have your backup phase. Boop, 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 pop. And then notice the relationship with the golden pocket. Okay. So I think that's it. I think this is what we're reliving, and I brought it up already. And I think this sharp move that we're getting right there is pretty much in alignment with this move we're getting right now. Let's look at XRP. XRP breaking below 2. So this is one call that technically would be, well, it's not too far off. It's not too far off. But this would technically be one call where the June 6th, June 5th low was not the true low. We have since went lower. Now, how many days do we trade here? Could be one, could be two, could be back up in a week. We could be back up at 240. This could be the exact move that it takes to slingshot us up. But did I not say that we still have some time to go? Because this fractal was taking us till the second week of July. So bear in mind that we still have time for that rollover, and I brought it up on my last YouTube video. I brought it up in the last 3 red pills. Could be an absolutely amazing buying opportunity for XRP. One thing I don't like, and this isn't because we need to rely on trend lines here because this is insanely theoretical, but we are starting to trade below this trend line, even though it's not an actual trend line. Like if I deleted this, there's only one tap right here on April 7th and just a couple of days over here. So this trend line is insignificant, in my opinion. It's insignificant. And you could draw it so many ways. You could draw it from over here, and you could look at it like that. And you could say, oh, whatever. But horizontal trading ranges are everything when you're actually doing real technical analysis. So look at everything horizontally. And that's why I like this fractal, because this fractal gives me an idea that we were not ready to push up when we were back here in May. And we were not ready to push up when we were over here in June. That it's really a July thing. And we saw XRP had this moment back here in July of 2023, big announcement. I do believe right there, July of 2020. Remember the C19 crash, chop, 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 down, up. Oh, let's see where it bottomed. No fucking way. Oh my God, in late June. Wait. Let me look at Doge, because Doge has been looking like absolute dog diarrhea lately. Yeah, it was that last week of June. Fuck. Oh wow, big pop up. I think this messed things up. This might be like an Elon sort of deal, but wow, what was that? 140% in like 5 days. That's insane. Yeah, but the true alt season happened here. The only thing that we have the similarity with is the pump before the C19 crash, the sideways before release. Obviously much different when it comes to Bitcoin dominance and also just how deep we are into the cycle. Anyways, this isn't about Doge today. Let's get over to some of our altcoins. We're about the 1 hour mark. We want to make sure we stay on track here. Mike is good. All right, so first up is UFO Gaming. Ooh. All right, so I'm not going to clown on these projects anymore. I know sometimes it sounds kind of like not so awesome when you're hearing me like say whatever. Wow, there's so many zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I said I wasn't going to clown anything, but that's a lot of zeros. So, all right, a lot of zeros in the opposite direction. You want the integer in front, and then the zeros going after. Anyways, fuck. It's just so hard for me not to have some fun when we're an hour deep into the podcast. You know, I think it's important. It's good for our souls. So major rally up. Wow, 13,000%. But now it's, what is this, 99.9? Yeah, 99.5. In the gutter. Let's see. Alrighty. No, it's not even going to tell us. I need to pull it more locally. Is this going to bottom or? My goodness. What in tarnation? Yeah. Woo. All right, guys. This is why you need to be very careful. And like, I get it. I'm in maybe 2 plays that are like this, that are like absolute shit coins. Like Filecoin is a good example. I've admitted this. I know it's a shit coin. I know, but it's only 1 to 2% of my portfolio. Don't go crazy with it, you know? I mean, but the thing is that if it pops up into the prior bull run territory, I mean, wow, it's going to be a 2000 or something percent play. So what are we dealing with here with this UFO Gaming? Well, if we were to just recover back to over here, this top, which was this top, which we've seen be tested before, there's liquidity up here. It would go up that'd be 1,000%. That's pretty good. Now this major spike, and we're talking 2,000%, 2,500%. You see what's going on here? So even if the bottom of the 618 fib, the bottom of the golden pocket ended up becoming our bull run top resistance, it's still a insane play. So this is the kind of stuff that, you know, not financial advice, but you throw like $100 in, like, and you expect it to go to zero, because that's all this thing's really been doing, is just perpetually going lower and lower and lower and lower. Now, could you have traded it along the way? Sure, but I mean, good luck with that. So yeah, this is the kind of stuff that's very hard to do TA on. And what I hope is, guys, listen to my instructions at the beginning of this red pill when I said, make sure it has at least a year worth of chart history. And when you're looking that up, make sure that there's some structure, you know. This thing is not the most ideal project. You should all know this. It's not, I'm not trying to be an asshole. I think it's just important to, as an educational thing, like if you're loading up charts like this, it's not so nice. But the reason could be some sort of supply unlock. I don't know. Maybe just more and more coins being added to the supply, just diluting it. You know, that happens too. I've been caught speaking about projects and charts where it was the case that actually it was just supply dilution, and it renders the analysis less accurate. Doesn't render it useless, but it just makes it less accurate when it comes to, you know, determining upside targets, for instance. But this is not looking so great. Be careful, guys. Getting above this 236 fib, you have room to quickly run up to a little bit shy of the 0.5, and I think that right there would be a huge opportunity. It's around 1,000% from here. I wouldn't personally buy this though. Personally, I would not buy this. I'd be very careful. And now we have lower downside targets, and I think I showed you one, which was right here. This pivot we've already hit, okay? But now we have to consider that pivot, which shows me that there's a lower low in the cards right around there. And then your two key levels of upside, because I love you guys, is the level we pulled that from and right around here. Because I would worry that, I don't know if we could go much higher. Let me take a sip of water real quick. All right, mic check, good. So yeah, guys, keep that downside target in mind, because we could actually go even lower. We're to see Bitcoin get to that 92K level for sure. This could maybe even go lower. I don't think Bitcoin will go that low though. That's a little drastic in my opinion. Now we're looking to look at Verge. It's been a while. This is a fascinating chart. This might also be one of those that, like, I've done. Oh no, I don't think that would be the case. I've done TA on in the past, and there's been some supply dilution perhaps. I'm not sure. But what I like about this is this has a lot of data. So this goes back to 2014, right? That's awesome to see. So look at how this coin traded before it went boom. This looks like a shit coin. Like if you showed me what this was doing over here, I'd be like, oh, okay. It looks like the typical nonsense. But then look at liftoff. Like, goodness gracious, this thing went up fucking 1,000,000%. 1 million. So that's what we're dealing with venture capital, guys. I'm not trying to be excited right now, but that's it. This is venture capital at its finest. It's put $100 in, and what the fuck, what's going on? And maybe you sell here because you don't know how to trade or whatever. You know, maybe you sold it all here and then never bought back in. You know, that's why you're here. You're learning TA, you're learning how to trade, you're learning esoterica, you're learning how to apply these tools, knowledge and wisdom, and also mindset, patience, the stomach it takes to get through these cycles. You know, most people didn't have the stomach to make it through this. Very few people held from here to here, right? That's why you've never met a Verge millionaire, right? But looking at the percentages here, if you put $1,000 in this project, at this full move of 1,200,000%, you are now working with $1.2 million. I mean, your capital gains on that's going to be pretty fucked unless you live in Portugal or Dubai or whatever. But yeah, that's pretty mad. So we have, let's look at this one step at a time. C19 crash, but then the bear market went lower. That's a bad sign. But recently, we've actually been popping off after doing this chop similar to back here. You see? Chop, blast off, return. Chop, blast off, return. Couple more sequences of this though. It's starting to look like a lie detector test. Now we have been in this local fib pull, swing high to swing low. See, when I have data on the charts, I could show you a much more sophisticated lesson on TA and actually provide a lot of value. When we have the last chart example, like with UFO gaming, no offense, it's just I can't really teach too much. These are much better examples. So I hope that also helps, unlike when it comes to selecting better charts. So we have a swing high to swing low fib pull. We have a major rejection here. I mean, I didn't even notice this, guys. I haven't looked at this project in some time, and we accomplished the move that I marked off in this chart. Who knows when? I might have marked it off in 2023, but it hit, and it hit for like a couple days before a pretty deep rejection. What is a six? Oh, wow, 80% correction. So that was a take profit zone. And I talk about this when it comes to these altcoins, especially ones that start trading lower than the C19 crash. Now, that was a good move. Like you're talking 600%. It's not like alt season craziness move, but it's a good move. You know, a lot of altcoins have done this 500% move. Now what we want is hold your 236, which it's been a legend at. Look at this. Absolute legendary, holding the 236 fib for 740 days. We don't want to pierce below that and start closing like a monthly. We would want to bounce and hopefully bounce sooner. I mean, could very well be a little bit of a trend line here. Again, very speculative, but in general, consider these things when you're looking at an altcoin. And if you can get above the 702, I think this thing will smash to the top very, very rapidly. So where we're at right now to that level, let's just call it the 888 fib. That's one of my favorite levels for like starting de-risking, for example. You're looking at a 1000% move. So this looks pretty good. The fact that it's been holding the 236, even though it did pierce lower in the bear market than the C19 crash, and why I'm confident in this analysis that I'm sharing, at least from an educational perspective, is because look at where we were trading during this time. And what did I show you with Ethereum? I showed you Ethereum is in this move right now. The whole market could be. Well, look at where we're trading. The same fucking price. And it went this high. I mean, yes, it took 200 days. Okay? That's a long time. I mean, 200 days from now would be, let's see it out. Was that exactly, let me measure this. 166, apologies. I was like, well, what's going on? Oh man, December. Yeah, if we get a 4-year cycle, like, mamma mia, man. Bitcoin will then be crowned easiest asset to predict of all time. Everything was just overthinking at that point. If we do get Bitcoin to top in November and then like the 2017 style alt season where everything just went up 1 month later in December, that'd be madness. Madness if that's what they do to us. I keep the movie credits rolling, guys. You know, like I'm excited about it because shit, like that would be for the next 160 days. We are going up and up and up and up and up. It would be like the most glorious 160 days of your lives. Okay? So those who are like, I hate this game, it's like, yeah, well, what if? What if it takes 150 days for you to see 1,800% move in an absolute shit coin? Enjoy the ride, because this was just an up festival. I know there was crazy volatility on the way up, but we've been through that before, all throughout last year and the year before. Sorry, there's some drumming going on. I don't know if you guys could hear it. It's probably some like Hari Krishna guys or some. No disrespect, but that's what it's like. A sounds like a circus out there. All right, now we're looking at XAI. Yeah, they're probably blocking traffic. I could hear the cars honking right now. It's like who on Sunday needs to block traffic playing the bongos? Like make a Facebook group or something. Anyways, we have XAI. I've never looked at this project either. So we have two new projects today. And what I like about this is I have a clear break here at 16 cents. Now look what I'm about to do. Boom! See, this is gorgeous. The TA that you're learning from me guys is very simple. It's not complicated. I know some of the decoding stuff could be complicated, but my decoding mastermind course teaches you everything you need to know about decoding. Plus it includes the crypto decoding blueprint completely for free within that course. So that is something worth investing in if you're interested in furthering your education more on decoding. But my crypto mastermind teaches all the TA stuff, and I give a lot of that stuff to you here inside of this Patreon. And since you're a Patreon supporter, you get the biggest discount, 20% off all of my courses. So I even have package deals available where you can get the mastermind package. It has the decoding mastermind, crypto mastermind, and the expansion mastermind for all the health and wellness mindset stuff that we focus on here. Consciousness, it has all three of those, and it's an even bigger discount. I believe it's 30% off. So getting back to this, you see the way I pulled this reverse fib. I took from this level right here, which was a temporary support that broke, and we could have determined this in the bear market, or not the bear market. We could have determined this by looking at the chart live at the time. Again, this is just my first time looking at it, but I would have known once we started breaking below this level that we were holding for couple months, which by the way, this is a brand new chart. This was launched this year. So this kind of breaks one of the rules of, apologies, last year. I take that back. Stupid me. What I'm saying though, it's late. We're deep into the podcast, so expect some slip ups. But we were holding this level. I'm going to draw a parallel channel for you guys, or not a parallel channel, but just a horizontal ray. So you can see once we broke below, that would be a good level to pull your reverse fib. So you go from swing low to swing high in reverse, and it'll give you the 1618 on the downside. Just make sure you have this level, this ticked off. The fib level's based on log scale, okay? And look, we've came straight now. If you knew this knowledge, some of you could have been in a 75% short. Not saying to do that, but that's kind of the stuff that you can do with these sorts of projects. You want to trade them because obviously it would not be a good hodl. This is down 90 something percent from like how many days into existing? 3 months into its existence, it was at top, and it has since been perpetually down for over a year and a half by 95%. So anyways, this was a great opportunity to short in the event that you saw a breaking of support. And you would have had the technical target so long in advance, you wouldn't have even need to care about when it will happen because we got there. And now we're returning back. So one thing, I don't know about supply dilution or whatever else is going on in this, but if we just come back up to the prior support, which could flip resistance, by the way, that'd be a 270% play. That could happen though. That could be the way it goes. This type of stuff doesn't need to have an alt season. It's just obviously very, very speculative. But in the event that we do, I like this level right here around this 0.5 fib. And let me mark that off really quick, just because there's clearly some liquidity. And then I'm also going to pull just very quickly for you guys to see a full fib pull. And you see that level that I marked off at the top? It's right at our 702 fib, right around the golden pocket. So it's there. It's pretty much a level that we would call a macro automatic rally. So a macro automatic rally looks like this. And then you actually have a spring, which would be your bear market, your true bear market. And then we go up in the next cycle. That could be how this plays out. I saw XRP do it in the last cycle. I saw Monero do it in the last cycle. I saw Stellar Lumens do it in the last cycle. I saw Dash do it in the last cycle. Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum Classic. So what I just showed you there, don't call that impossible. And also don't get triggered, because if you look at the amount of gains, that's still 800% on absolute nonsense project. Like this is pure speculation. This whole lift off over here, and the fact that it's lost 99%, 97% of its value since proves it, And that's not to trash it. That's just speaking the truth, right? So I would stay away from this personally unless you find a trading opportunity. And if you do, play with 1% of your portfolio max. Keep it safe. Do never go all in this stuff. Just like I would never go all in Filecoin, which is so far one of my worst investments. But I'm fine with that because it's 1 to 2% of my portfolio. It's designed to effectively be like this emotional thing for me where I look at it as it could go to zero. So there's zero emotion, effectively. It's the safest way to play this game. So now we have Mana, Decentraland, and then we're going to wrap this one up. Okay, very nice chart. We're looking at the weekly now. We got data going all the way back to 2017. So this was part of the first alt season and had a second alt season. Very nice. Good timing of the launch here. Maybe not for the people who FOMO'd in, but then we could see from the C19 crash, let's call it C19 crash support levels, since we have that peak there, some action here and action here before liftoff. We're up still 600 something percent. So if you bought the oversold times of the last cycle, good job, because you're sitting pretty right now. It's a very nice play. Although, because Bitcoin dominance has been rising and rising and rising, this doesn't look so good today, right? So, I mean, in the bear market sense, if you were to buy similar levels, you're not down by so much. I mean, 33%, but remember, what could 33% down turn into? Well, golden pockets, 1,100. We have a lot of liquidity up here, and we even have some over here right around the $1.65 range. So we're talking 600%. Now, this is not a tried and true proven play. Why? Because it's sitting so low right now comparatively to even Ethereum, and obviously Bitcoin has just been a much better investment overall. But keep in mind that off of this C19 crash backup right there, because you have spring, SOS, backup, from that level, this thing went up 3,000% in 112 days. And then by the end of the cycle, it even topped with Bitcoin later in November, 7,000%. So that's like kind of what we're dealing with here. My issue is though, is we're back testing the prior, this prior zone, I could call it. I see liquidity down to 13 cents. So this can absolutely go lower because this was all thin air. There's just some wicks to the upside over here. Nothing concrete. Rejection right here around 12, 13 cents. And then we just busted through. And since we've had our kind of like still in this bear market vibe, we haven't gotten back there. So yeah, it's kind of rough. We've just been perpetually making lower lows too, and no break of structure. So this doesn't look so great to me anymore. It would have been, it's still a good hold if you got in the last cycle and you never sold. But I mean, at that point, if you're 600% up, just fucking de-risk already. Because if this thing sinks to 11 or 12 in the short term, it might get back up to the golden pocket. But I mean, still, you're in profits already, and if you're worried, then why worry yourself some more, you know? Again, that kind of sounds like a financial advice situation. I don't mean it to be, but I'm just saying this is like advice that I would give for people every cycle, you know? Like when we're running into problems, de-risk if you've already been in profit, because the goal is to make money here and accumulate and then redistribute that wealth from your profits and this more speculative stuff into stuff that actually has more meaning and more purpose, right? Which would be your business. And that's the reason why I created Waters Above University. It's so that you actually make something that you are a part of, not just sitting here watching fairy dust go up and down on the screen all day, you know? Anyways, speaking of that, I'm actually going to be reopening enrollment for Waters Above University in July because so many people have been asking about it. So I will be opening up again. Final thoughts on Mana. It's not the worst looking chart, but I think it's kind of in the middle zone where it's like I would rather maybe invest in something like XLM or XRP even and disregard something like Mana. Just because the percentage increases. I would need a very crazy event to occur for making as much ROI in it as I could with something like Gala or Filecoin or HBAR, for instance. So yeah, I mean, I'm very clear on my portfolio and my thoughts at this time, regardless of this correction right now. And I want to see how tomorrow goes. I want to see how this Monday goes. now that Bitcoin has started showing some signs of weakness in the very short term. You know, it's a Sunday, so we can't judge everything fully on what we're getting right now because we have CME closing at 103 and we're at 99. So there's going to be a major gap all the way down here, potentially, depending on how the next couple hours goes. So I'm going to wrap this one up. I will be sending out a midweek update given the market environment, of course. You guys can stay tuned for that. But what would be even better is maybe we'll rewatch the beginning of this again, take notes, focus on everything we shared, because leading up into Tuesday, Wednesday, I think it's going to be a very pivotal time. All right. So I appreciate and I'm grateful for every single one of you. I'm wishing you all a beautiful rest of your day in the Matrix. Much love.